Hello, my name is Alan Leonard, and today I'm recording a video for Lab 4 in Computer Networks, Introduction to Networks. So I try to go through as quickly as I can. For part 1 was talking about the Ethernet addresses and everything, and this took me a while to set up, but eventually I was able to get it to work properly. For 40-bit Ethernet address, I found that, took screenshots of that. Number 2 was the destination of the Ethernet frame, and of it is it the address of the website. The answer was no. And this was the address of the router in between. Also sent a screenshot of that. For number 3, get the hexadecimal value, which I found would be 0x0800, which correlates to being an IP address. Number 4, going off and just counting through the rows, I found that it was 54 is where the G starts. It also showed off where I highlighted it, and you can see it. And gave the answer of how it would be 20 bytes for the IP header, 20 bytes for the TCP header, and then 14 bytes for the Ethernet frame itself. So that was 54 beforehand as well. Number 5 was the value of the Ethernet source address. And also found is the address. No, it is not the address of the actual thing. It is still another router between the opposite side, on the opposite side of like the connections. Number 6 was destination address in the Ethernet frame. Found that, and this would be my home address, like my computer. 7 hexadecimal value is the same thing here, which is corresponding to IP again. 8 would be how many bytes for the start. This was 8 bytes that I found. No. 8, not 8, I'm sorry. That would be about 13 bytes. Counted that wrong, sorry. Then for the ARP, the address resolution protocol parts, I went on, took a screenshot of the columns in my DOS, found it was the IP on the left side, the physical addresses, which it even says is physical address, and then there's the types, which I believe is the protocols, specifically dynamic and static, across them. Then it was talking about the hexadecimal codes. This is before the actual question. Give the hexadecimal value for the 2-byte Ethernet frame type field. Found the destination, found the source, found the type being 0x0806, and it's an ARP protocol. Highlight all of that in the picture. The actual questions found how many bytes from the very beginning of the Ethernet to the ARP opcode field. There's 20 bytes to it, highlighted, sent a picture of it. 2, what is the opcode request? Is 1, or also found as 0x0001. And what does the ARP message contain the IP address of the sender? Yes, it was labeled as well. I put that in the highlight. It was 10.2.1.1. And where in the ARP request for the question appear? Ethernet at the address machine corresponding. Targets, I highlighted that. Target was labeled near the bottom. Of course, this one was being all zeros because it's not the actual one. This one we're requesting. Now, for the second part of that part, those few questions of the reply, ARP was again 20 bytes into it to find the opcode. This one was a reply, so it was a value of 0x0002. The reply is farther down and is also labeled. Took a screenshot of that, and also showed the IP address that was being queried for the MAC address targets. The value for number 4, found those ones, posted them. Number 5, the Ethernet trace. Was very confused about opening this, but I found that the other computer was able to give the address, and that's why there was no reply back between them. And for part 2, DHCP, the messages were sent over UDP. Send a screenshot where I highlighted all of those, and on the very bottom it says user data grant protocol. Number 2, what is the link layer? Link layer found was the MAC address that was given. I showed that. The value was in the link layer address of your host, sorry. Well, number 3, what is the values in DHCP message? Found it that was transaction ID that was actually changing between all of them. Number 4, what are these different IDs, what are the values of them, and what's the purpose of this. So I found all the different addresses, as many as I could, labeled them. They're mostly the same with a few changes, and the IDs are different to be able to tell what is being made. It was like a request, release, ACK, discover, offer, etc. Number 5, host uses to obtain a new address all the time. And the question was, sorry. Since they were not sent back, they were given like defaults 000, 252, 255, 255, and then also my own address 10211. What is the IP address of your DHCP server? Found that was my address, 10.2.1.1. Also took a screenshot of that. 7, what is the IP server offering you to the host? Was 10.2.1.148. In the first ACK message, like the reply back and the acknowledgement. 8, in the example screenshot, there's only a 000, indicating there was an absence. There's also one on mine, so I do not have one. There are, for number 9, explain the purpose of the router and subnet masks in the offer messages. These are used to direct the connections directly to what is needed, like going through all of them, so know exactly where to connect from. 10, lease time is used specifically to like how long the address is available for those different like things. So it's basically how long they're giving out these addresses before they need to take them back and give them to new computers and systems and networks. Mine was leased for 3 days, and I took a screenshot of that. And the last 2 don't really apply to many screenshots, but for 11, these messages are important because they allow addresses to be sent back and forth in the market, like I was talking about. So new computers and connections can take them and have IP addresses. They usually send a message back with the lease time instead of like an acknowledgement to show that they were given. And they are not really sent to tell when they're done, but once the lease is over, that's when it is. So even if it's like sent and it's not being used, the lease is kind of still there until the time ends. And for 12, were there any RIP packs sent in the period of time? I did find one, and I believe they were sent to give addresses to both sides for the bookkeeping. So now everything is from there, and they know that they no longer have that address. Thank you.